What does Dark Deception hide from the player throughout Torment Therapy? In Dark Deception, the player must run through terrifying maze environments, all while evading various monsters and demons. But beyond what we can see, there's plenty that we can't as well in Chapter 4. So in this video, we'll be exploring out of bounds, checking things behind the scenes, and breaking the game to encounter situations we normally can't. Torment Therapy starts us off outside of a hospital. This isn't your everyday hospital though, as it feels more so like a dance club when walking around the first area here. With an awkward walk up to the front desk, we'll be introduced to this place of healing and mercy, as this nurse goes on a spiel about beers being bad. However, we are the patient now, as we're taken further in, where we'll need to submit to a few tests. Every test that we're given is a fatal attempt on our life, which eventually leads us to escaping this nurse. Heading down the elevator, we'll find ourselves in the first soul shard maze of the chapter. Telekinesis makes this a much easier experience, but that doesn't change the fact that nurses are invisible, and they can get really annoying. Once collecting all the shards in this maze, we'll gain access to the next part. Two nurses will jump down at us as we make our way into this parking lot, which will prompt a short chase. I ended up panicking here, and accidentally went back the way I came, which led me into the previous maze. Nothing can be done here though, and they never give up on chasing us. Going the correct way will follow with us getting on top of this ambulance, which will take us off into the next portion of the hospital. Let's rewind though, and take another look at all this. This hallway before Torment Therapy is of course similar to the other hallways we encounter, with not much going on out of bounds. However, when I use the telekinesis ability while slowing the game down, you can see the spectacle it puts on. We'll do this again later, when we can get a better view of it. Moving into this level though, we can zoom out and take an overall look at the entirety of this hospital. There's a lot of unused office space in this building, given the layout of the actual interior versus the exterior, which makes sense of course. While exploring with the camera, we can see that this particular nurse is going to just continuously on the phone until we initiate our interaction with her.
Yep.
Yes, my ears eventually began bleeding while exploring this part. If you're wondering what these nurses look like under those bags, well, we'll never know. I mean, they do give Airhead vibes, so it checks out. This is when I decided to treat the Gold Watchers with a good time, as we made them look like fools when robbing their mansion in our previous encounter. So, as you can see, I gave them a front row seat for what is apparently the best healthcare this place has to offer. Coming back outside, you'll notice a city that's off in the distance. It's blacked out, and when getting closer, it remains as is. Even changing the view will show that this is all we're going to see when it comes to the blacked out city. But I digress. While talking to this nurse at the front desk, something strange occurs. Her body goes back to its default pose while conversing with us. I don't believe it was caused by me, seeing that this occurred while playing normally too. We can also see it happening here as well, from a 3-year-old video. Regardless, it was curious to see the phone nurse do this, as that's the model's name within the game. Pushing on though, this is where we take a mini tour as we experience peak healthcare. During this fat burning part, the game basically forces our character to dodge the fire that comes down onto us. What a blaze! When they attempt to take a small blood sample from us, this room will fill with needles. The optical illusion that it displays gets broken when exploring in here with the camera, as you can see. It's still a terrifying experience though. The next and final test, where the nurse basically tries to blow us up, was glitchy for me, but we can see how she'll skate down here and freeze until we make it out of the room. She and the rest of these nurses are going to have an extra hard time catching me though, as my ability to freeze them will be happening a lot. Going back through these rooms we normally can't get to, you'll see that everything basically resets. As you can see, the needle room is no longer filled with needles now. I tried breaking into this area where the nurse can be seen dancing, but it resulted with me deleting more than I wanted, as I then slipped and fell into this endless void. Unglorious. Looking down below into the void, I noticed that something was down there. Getting a closer look, it appears to be some kind of text being wrapped around a spherical area. Perhaps maybe a decal projection of a font texture? Hard to say. Anyways, back up top in the elevator, once we activate it, we can see how we load into the next area, where we'll begin soul shard collecting. This gives us the opportunity to get an overall view of the maze layout. It's a symmetrical layout, similar to the ones we've encountered before. Collecting the shards as fast as I could, you can see how it looks from this perspective while utilizing telekinesis. It's pretty cool to see if you ask me, making for a neat vortex that we're able to create. When it comes to the nurses that pursue us, there's only 3 during this part. However, once reaching the parking lot, you'll see how these 2 that ambush us will load in and drop down. This one in particular was funny to see, as it performed its wild acrobatics. But joke's on them, because I'm taking them off the board. This resulted with them getting sucked down below on the tablet map, making them harmless like past foes we've banished. The tunnel we end up taking can be traveled if we delete a barrier, but this will follow with a long trek if you're trying to reach the end, which leads to just that, a dead end. Let's carry on as we normally would though. After riding on top of this ambulance, we'll venture further in, only to find ourselves in too deep, as this scene plays out. We'll eventually be captured, which leads to being in a cell that will crush us unless we quickly escape. Next, we have some sneaking around in the ring altar room, following with the soul shard maze. Feeling more like a prison than a hospital, we'll once again collect more soul shards as we dodge more invisible nurses, and lots of saw blades. I eventually got to the last soul shard when one of the nurses stunned me. Luckily, I was lifted by the platform during this, keeping me safe from the nurse down below. However, once done, we'll come back to the ring altar room to get the ring. Making our escape in another ambulance follows with a cutscene that initiates this boss fight we're about to have. We basically have to keep teleporting ahead onto these vehicles, all while knocking these nurses off and making them hit the big nurse. Doing this 3 times will defeat her, as we'll then make it back to the first part of the hospital. A cutscene plays where we evade nurses, as we then need to dodge a few more on our own, leading to the escape of this Torment Therapy. Let's get another look at what we just went through though. So, when leaving for the second section of Torment Therapy, you'll see how we'll unload as the next area loads in. We can see that we technically load in right next to the Soul Shard maze, as we're able to look around here. We can actually see right exactly where I was before activating the camera in the previous section, as it drags us back to that position when taking control of our character. Bon voyage! From an overall view, there's 2 tunnels leading in and out of this place, which are actually closer to one another than you may realize. Big Mama Nurse looks like she's DJing for Big Pharma or something, but is also missing something. I didn't realize that she had no feet. I just thought she was standing on this contraption that we see her riding later in the tunnels. Anyway, when the nurse ambushes us here, you'll see how she'll just appear behind us, following with a bonk on her head. So because of my tinkering here, my character is technically still up where we got ambushed. As you can see, the game pulls me back up here. Bypassing the prison door like this causes quite the sequence break with this whole section. For starters, when getting back down here, I noticed that the nurses won't become alerted to my presence when walking through here now. Not even Big Mama cared. I tried messing with her, but she was bundled with the room model, as you can see the room moving as well when I tried to alter it. Not only were these nurses peaceful, but the ones in the maze were nowhere to be found either. This allowed me to clear the maze with no resistance. However, I knew we were going to have issues when coming back to my soul shard collecting, because the nurses were still in the ring altar room. I couldn't collect the ring either, so I took it a step further and broke through here to try and push on without the ring. This ultimately doesn't work, and the ambulance will not leave us. As soon as I came back and opened that cell door though, the sequence was fixed, and the nurses in the ring altar room could see me again. I was already soft locked at this point though, so I just went ahead and restarted. Painfully collecting these soul shards again, I was able to progress as we're supposed to. The transition between this area and the boss fight area was curious to see, as we load into this high-speed moving tunnel. A big portion of this tunnel system is loaded in, as we can see how we're continuously being looped throughout it over and over again. It's only in this small portion of the tunnel that we'll be at though. There are fog barriers preventing us from seeing the rest of the tunnel. There are a lot of nurses in this section of the game, as they roller derby their way throughout this place. A visual representation of an American hospital bill pursuing us. How hauntingly accurate! I was very limited here with what I could do, as I couldn't freeze any of these enemies. Although, I did delete a section of the tunnel, which we ended up passing by again during this chase. Furthermore, showing how the entirety of the tunnel is looped. When Big Mama takes the final hit, the fall is glorious to watch, but as you can see, I was a little discombobulated when recording this part. Her body will eventually just slide along the road. But more interestingly is that the rest of these nurses can be found under the tunnel. They're just continuously skating, as they have been, and will do so for the remainder of this scene, eventually fading to black. There's a lone nurse that will end up being behind us at this point, who we can get to after deleting some doors. She can't hurt us, but she does get right up in our face when doing this. When getting to these 3 cutscene nurses though, we can watch it all unfold again from this perspective. It's pretty neat to see it all take place, as our character strategically uses multiple abilities that we've acquired throughout the game. No one's putting any needles in these arms. If we freeze the nurses we have to dodge ourselves, it allows us to see how these nurses that we just encountered will reset back to their default positions, as I was able to come back in here. Even the needle we used to bash one of them with is still here. Glorious! That's it for Torment Therapy though. I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look, and I'll cook up the rest of Chapter 4 soon. Cheers!